1. You will hear a telephone conversation between a hotel manager and a woman who is inquiring about wedding arrangements. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5. Now listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 5.
Hello, Clarence House.
Oh, hello. I'm getting married next year and I understand you're licensed to hold weddings at the hotel.
Yes, we are. Can I ask what date you were thinking of?
Either the 1st or the 7th of June?
Right, let me see. Oh, I'm afraid we already have a booking for the 7th, but we still have availability on June the 1st.
That would be fine.
So, how many guests are you going to be inviting?
About 80.
So, for that number, we'd recommend the Oxford Suite. I don't know if you've been to the hotel.
Yes. In fact, I went to a wedding there a few years ago and I was really impressed.
Very good.
I think we were in the Oxford Suite then. The room where we were eating had big windows with really good views. You could see right across the city.
That's it. And you'd have exclusive access to the garden. It'll be at its best in June.
So we could have the photos there.
Sure. In fact, you can even have the ceremony there if you want. It makes a lovely background.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that. Yes, that's certainly an idea. And is there somewhere for dancing?
Yes, there's plenty of space in the middle of the dining room.
Oh, yeah, I remember now.
So, just to give you an idea, would you like me to tell you about our special wedding package?
Sure.
Right. So, for 80 guests, you'd have the exclusive use of the Oxford Suite, as I said, and then a meal, so that would be in the dining room, and that would be a sit-down meal with 3 courses.
And how's the room arranged? I seem to remember you have round tables.
That's right. Most people prefer them to long tables.
Long tables aren't really very friendly, are they? And what about decorations on the tables?
They're included in the package, and we have white linen tablecloths and white chair covers. And we also include an individually designed menu specially printed for you. It's something that people can take away to remember the occasion. That's something we've just started doing this year.
Oh, right.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 6 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 6 to 10.
And then, towards the end of the evening, when everyone's beginning to run out of energy, we bring in a buffet. Nothing too complicated, just a selection of sandwiches together with tea or coffee. That's always very popular.
Right. And we want some music. Is that included in the package?
No, but we could probably get you a DJ, or we know of a very good band if you'd prefer that.
Yes, that'd be better actually. Something to get everyone on their feet. Good. So, apart from the music, you said that's an all-inclusive package. So, how much does that package come to?
£5,995.
That's a bit more than the package they quoted for me at the Stanley Hotel. Theirs was £4,500.
Yes, but I think if you look at what you're getting for the money, you'll find we're the best value. And it is a big day after all.
Yes, you're probably right. Oh, and I nearly forgot. I'm looking for someone who can make me a really special cake. Can you suggest one?
Certainly. There's a new company that we've started using. They're very good. In fact, our wedding coordinator will be able to give you all sorts of advice. We can offer you a free consultation and a tour of the venue.
Yes, well, I'd definitely be interested.
Right. Well, the coordinator's name is Sarah Izzard. That's Izard. Now, when would you like to meet her? She's available from 9 to 5 most weekdays, or later if that's more convenient.
I'm free on the 12th of October, in the morning sometime, or the 15th of October.
That would be better, thanks. Shall we say 11:30?
Fine.
And can I just take your name and a contact number?
Sure, it's Debbie.
That is the end of Part 1. You now have 1 minute to check your answers to Part 1. Part 2. You will hear a radio report from a man called Ian about swimming lessons. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 16. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 16.
Now, here's Ian Hemming with a special report on learning to swim.
3 times a week, I swim at my local pool for 35 minutes at a time. It's the only regular exercise I take. There are a couple of things that I'm not happy about, though. I'm a fairly strong swimmer, and I'm fearless when it comes to diving off the top board, but my neck sometimes aches after swimming, which is odd given that I've always assumed it was the perfect, impact-free exercise. And why is it the men and women who regularly overtake me as I plough up and down the pool appear to be moving so effortlessly? Time to visit Ed Cray, the founder of the Easy Swim School. Ed watched me swim a few lengths. Then, while I caught my breath, he pointed out that although I had a good horizontal position in the water, I was wasting precious energy by slapping my hands into the water. He showed me how to do the stroke without splashing, and after a few practice lengths, I could see the sense of what he was saying. Ed first qualified as a swimming instructor 10 years ago and started teaching straight away, but it's just 5 years since he introduced a new way of teaching swimming, which he called the Cray method. This was so successful that 2 years ago he won an award for innovation in swimming instruction. Ed believes that many people are put off traditional swimming lessons at school because instead of focusing on enjoyment and building confidence, The instructors only seem interested in speed and racing. And swimming, according to Ed, is about much more than that. He also thinks they start children on the wrong strokes. Now, Ed and his team run courses for all ages and all levels. Although he's more than happy to correct the technique of competent swimmers like me, he specialises in teaching adult non-swimmers. He recommends starting with a series of 6 lessons taken over 1 week, and then following this up, if necessary, with another short weekend course or weekly lessons. This way, people make more progress, he says. Most adult beginners choose to take private lessons as they tend to be lacking in confidence. This works out at £40 for a 35-minute lesson or £60 for a couple sharing a lesson.
Before you hear the rest of the radio report, you have some time to look at questions 17 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 17 to 20.
Ed also has special programs for teaching beginners from different age groups, such as young children from 3 to 5 years old, babies, and adults. The programs all have some features in common, but obviously teaching a 60-year-old and a 6-month-old are 2 entirely different things. Breathing in the water is something that comes naturally to babies, for example. They spend their first few minutes in the water blowing bubbles. This is a skill they're very good at, and they manage not to swallow any water. It's a similar thing with young children. Adults, on the other hand, are talked through this process on dry land first, so they understand the mechanics of it all. Ed doesn't like to predict how long it will take to learn to swim independently. He says it's almost impossible to generalise with adults, who can take anything from 4 lessons to 4 months getting the hang of it. Children are generally quicker and can generally manage to swim across the pool without any support after their first 4 lessons. Ed says it's possible for babies to float independently after a few lessons, but it depends on the individual. Easy Swim's lessons are quite different to anything I'd witnessed before. Although Ed stayed on the side of the pool during my lesson, he actually swims with adult beginners. He also encourages parents to swim with their children during their first few lessons, while he demonstrates the activities from the side. Many adults are afraid to put their heads under the water, and this can result in bad posture and bad style. But Ed says that he never puts pressure on adults to put their heads under, although he encourages babies to do this straight away. Older children can be more fearful, so it can take longer for them to gain the confidence to swim underwater.
Now, if you're interested in finding out more about Easy Swim's lessons, go to their website on www.easyswim.co.uk.
That is the end of Part 2. You now have 30 seconds to check your answers to Part 2. Part 3. You will hear 2 graduate students called Jen and Bill discussing the write-up of their group project. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 25.
What's up, Jen? How are you?
Oh, hey, Bill.
Where's everybody else?
I don't know. You're the first to get here.
Well, I hope they don't take too long. I have a class at noon.
Why don't we at least discuss what we've completed and what's left to do?
Sounds like a plan. Have you heard anything from Irene?
Yeah, Irene told me the experiment is just about done. She's been practically living in the lab the past week.
Wow. We owe her a favor, don't we?
You can say that again.
Has Kim been helping her? I thought that lab work was not her style.
Well, not so much in the lab, but she has started compiling the data for the analysis.
Kim is terrific. I hate doing stats. I've always been bad at math.
I always thought there wasn't anything to that boys are good at math theory.
Yes, and I'm proof.
Anyway, Kim hasn't actually run the stats for the project yet, since she still has to wait for the rest of the experiment data. But she's ready to get started when we get the experiment done. Seriously, without Irene and Kim, we'd be in trouble.
Yeah, you're right about that. So, what about Linda? What's she been up to?
Who knows? All she ever talks about is her fiancé. I haven't seen or heard from her all week.
Well, I hope she turns up soon. We'll need everyone if we're going to get this done on time.
Yeah, and she knows that Professor Cooper is a hard grader of projects. I'm worried that Professor Cooper is not going to give us a passing grade. Anyway, we haven't talked about the introduction yet. Have you finished reading those articles Professor Cooper gave us? Bill, she gave us those 2 weeks ago.
Hey, I've been busy.
And I haven't? Come on, Bill.
Jen, you know we all depend on you for that. You're the only person I know that reads every assignment from beginning to end. You and Professor Cooper often have private discussions about readings in the middle of class. But hey, I'm not complaining. That's why all the rest of us asked you to be on our team.
Oh, so that's why. So it wasn't because I'm popular, huh?
Hey, you're the best. No one's going to argue that.
Hey, I'm thirsty. You want something to drink?
No, I'm good.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Before you hear the rest of the discussion, you have some time to look at questions 26 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 26 to 30.
They're still not here?
Nope. And I've got a class I got to get to.
Well, let's divide up responsibilities, like who's responsible for each section. It only makes sense that Irene writes up all the materials and methods since she spent the most time with that.
Aw, that's easy.
Hey, didn't you just say we owe her one?
Yeah, you're right. Irene can do the methodology section.
Do you want to do the results?
Not at all. I thought Kim would do that.
Just because she is good at stats doesn't mean she'll be good at writing it up. And besides, you are the one good at copy editing.
Well, all the same, I think it'll be easiest if she does the results section. I'll edit the whole report.
Come on. That's asking a lot of you.
Well, what part are you going to do, Jen?
Isn't that obvious? Since I'm the one who does all the reading.
I'm sure you'll give us the best literature review, Jen. We're all counting on you for that.
I guess that leaves the discussion section and the bibliography.
Yeah, can you make suggestions on these?
Okay, but seriously, wouldn't it make more sense if you do the list of references? There are enough commas, capital letters, and parentheses to keep you happy in there.
Yeah, you got a point. It sure does make sense that I do the bibliography.
I guess Linda could handle the discussion section even if she hasn't been around much.
Yeah, but isn't that like the most important section?
Well, what else is she going to do?
The whole paper. It'll serve her right.
Then we'd all fail.
Okay, but I think we all should start messaging her to make sure she gets busy. The discussion section can be long.
What about the abstract?
You really don't want me to do the abstract, do you?
That's not the point. I just think that the abstract should be for whoever finishes first.
Right.
That is the end of Part 3. You now have 30 seconds to check your answers to Part 3. Part 4. You will hear part of a lecture about the study on desert animals. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Good morning and welcome to the Westgate Zoo's special presentation on desert animals. We would like to thank you for attending. We appreciate the opportunity to educate as many people as we can on the importance of the desert environment to our planet. Many people think that the desert is barren and devoid of life. However, we are here to convince you today that that's far from true, and that the deserts are in fact beautiful places teeming with life. As you know, the fine balance of ecosystems is an essential part of our planet. In every environment, from the desert to the jungle to the deepest ocean, we see that species rely on each other, and any disturbance to one member of an ecosystem has a ripple effect on everything else. Today, the first topic I would like to share with you is how two different species react to each other's behavior, namely their interaction. When it comes to desert, we tend to think that in such a sterile environment, every creature will fight fiercely with each other for food and water since they are so scarce. That's true to some extent. Both things can also be different. Here we can bring quite a few examples on how one species can coexist with another in the desert. One excellent example is mice and lizards. They are animals of a similar size and treat each other with a wary tolerance. Neither will attack or eat the other, but they do share something in common, their food source. Although mice will also eat seeds and plants, and lizards sometimes eat other small lizards, their common food source is insects such as spiders, ants, and other bugs, which are high in protein and other nutrients as well, so they don't need to hunt for food until they get hungry next time. Most of the time, the two species will not interfere with each other's eating preferences. However, they do compete for food at times, but it rarely results in a direct fight, as there is usually plenty of food for both of them. Now let's undertake our second topic. Instead of studying how two species get along with each other, or how they are similar to one another, we will explore for more information through comparison. This time, we have two completely contrasting species, and we will see the way in which both species use their own way of adapting to a changing environment, and even how they find additional resources in harsh environments. The example here is kangaroos and locusts, both of which have adapted well to the changing environment. Rather than reducing in number, like many animals when humans encroach on their habitat, kangaroos can live and feed just as well on golf courses and lawns as they can on their own native grasses. Incredibly, the population of kangaroos in Australia has increased dramatically to nearly 44 million. In some parts, kangaroos are even culled in large numbers because they have become a pest. In a similar way, as the areas being used for farmland have increased, locusts have taken advantage of the extra food, much to the dismay of the farmers. And studies have shown that the size of the creature is 7% larger than 10 years ago. So, as you can see in these two cases, some species are able to adapt very well to living with the changing environment. On another topic now, we often hear about symbiotic or cooperative relationships between species where they are mutually beneficial to each other. You have probably heard about this kind of cooperation in species such as sea anemones and clownfish, sharks and canefish, as well as leafcutter ants and fungus. Well, the example I have for you today is fire ants and some plants. The former can benefit from the protection offered by the latter. The plants have ways to ensure that ants defend them from attacks and also spread their seeds. The ants look for various kinds of seeds, and some seeds are not completely consumed, meaning that the kernels of the seeds are scattered around their nests, effectively spreading the seeds to grow into new plants. Studies have shown that the amount of ants can be doubled when they are near these particular plants simply because of the shelter they provide. This is a terrific example of how species can work together to be mutually beneficial, and this is something humans need to consider more in their own environments. Well, I hope that my talk has helped open your eyes to the beauty that the desert holds. Are there any questions?
That's the end of part 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers.